two, or the propaganda duo in Italy. They are Freemasons. The Vatican is loaded, almost completely infiltrated by Freemasonry. They are one and the same. The Jesuit general, what they call the Black Pope, is the highest member in the Vatican. The Jesuits do not take orders from the Pope. They take orders from the Black Pope, the Jesuit general. He is a Freemason. And so Pope John Paul I, remember him? He was not Pope for very long, was he? And Pope John Paul I began to, as soon as he became Pope, began to discover banking irregularities that were taking place. He also discovered the ceremony that took place of the fallen angel Lucifer. He also discovered that there were high-ranking officials in the Vatican. One of them was Cardinal Villo, who was the Vatican Secretary of State, were all high-ranking Freemasons. And he was scheduled to have these men removed from their duties in the Vatican. And the next morning, he was dead. And he was Pope for exactly 33 days. They're telling you how it happened. Dallas, Texas. This is the place where JFK was killed on the 11th month of 22nd day. That's 33. Get it? Dealey Plaza was the former site of a Masonic lodge. I went to Dealey Plaza. It's very interesting to go there. You see there at Dealey Plaza an obelisk, a Masonic symbol erected in JFK's honor. You also see there the street layout of Dallas, Texas forms an obelisk. And that's where Kennedy was killed, at the apex of that obelisk, a Masonic symbol. It's a phallic symbol. Very, very interesting. 33rd parallel. Dallas, Texas is on the 33rd parallel. March the 30th, 3:30. See the number 33 there? That's the day that Reagan was shot. Was it part of a conspiracy? You bet it was. Roswell, New Mexico. Supposed site of an alien spacecraft landing in 1947. Remember that? Remember that year? 1947? Roswell's on the 33rd parallel. It's become associated with the New Age philosophy of communication with alien gods who will come to illuminate the minds of mankind and bring us into our next step of evolution. It's part of the secret. That's why it took place in Roswell, 33rd parallel. If you go over to White Sands, New Mexico, on the 33rd parallel, place of the detonation of the first atomic bomb at the Trinity site, the number 3. Also, winding around from the 33rd parallel northward, like a serpent on a cross, the Four Corners area. Combined, you have Highway 666, and it does. It sort of winds around these state lines like a serpent around a cross. Get it? Phoenix, Arizona is on the 33rd parallel. It's the sighting of the massive UFO sighting called the Phoenix Light, seen by thousands, photographed and videoed as a giant pyramid in the sky. This is a known event, folks. This was covered on the news. The phoenix is a mythical bird and a cult symbol for rebirth. In fact, most of the symbols of Masonry have to do with death and rebirth. And the phoenix is that symbol. The phoenix is a symbol of the Antichrist. He's a symbol of Osiris. He's a symbol of all the gods that have died and are resurrected. And you just need to study mythology and ancient history just long enough to see that story pervades throughout all the occult world. The God who dies and is resurrected. And it's interesting that Revelation 13 talks about the beast who has a deadly head wound, but it's healed. The God who dies and is resurrected. It's a mockery of Christ. Nagasaki, Japan. White Sands is where the first atomic bomb was tested on the 33rd parallel. And then we go to Nagasaki, Japan, where it was detonated on the 33rd parallel. Babylon, Iraq is on the 33rd parallel. Rebuilt by Saddam Hussein, who called himself Nebuchadnezzar II, now occupied by American troops. I think that's interesting. The fall of Baghdad took place on April 9th, which is the 99th day of the year, 33 times 3. May 1st is the day when President Bush flew out to that ship and declared that we have victory in Iraq. We don't have victory in Iraq now. But he had to declare it on the 121st day of the year, May 1st. I think that's interesting. This whole war in the Middle East was conceived years ago by think tanks in Washington, D.C. And it was practiced and trained in an operation called Bright Star. Think about it. The star falling from heaven. A military strategy was conceived and tested to prepare forces for a possible war in the Middle East. It involved 33 nations around the world. Think about it. We can just follow the trail. The bombing of the commercial railway by Muslim terrorists in Spain took place on 3/11, March 11. That's 33. That was in Spain, Madrid, Spain. The London train bombings, called the 7/7 bombings. Get it? 77. Virginia Tech killings. There was 33 that ended up dead on that day. You say mankind manipulated that? No, mankind doesn't have to do it. The devil does. And he did. 33 ended up dead. Yasser Arafat, when he died, they announced his death at 3:30 in the morning, Paris time. I think that's interesting. The 33rd parallel is also where King Tyrus lived. King Tyrus and Hiram Abiff are two characters that are very, very closely associated with the rebuilding or the building of Solomon's temple in Masonic lore and Masonic mythology. Hiram Abiff is a man who was murdered and brought back to life, and it's portrayed in the first levels of Freemasonry. Hiram Abiff is not Hiram Abiff. Hiram Abiff is the Antichrist whose deadly wound was healed, and they lived on the 33rd parallel. Now, you remember Apollo 11? Apollo 11 consisted of two parts. One, a lunar module called the Eagle module. Remember what Neil Armstrong said, the Eagle has landed. The Eagle has landed, and we're going to see why he said that in a little bit. The Eagle module, but it was the Columbia space rocket that flew the Eagle to the moon. Columbia is the word for dove. Dove. Okay? And 33 and a half years after the Apollo 11 mission, another spaceship called Columbia was destroyed. After beginning its descent on the 33rd day of the year, breaking up over the 33rd parallel on its way to landing at runway 33 at Kennedy Space Center. The imagery was that of a falling star. You remember seeing the pictures, don't you? And isn't it interesting that we have a tarot card called the Star? The star is Lucifer. And the star, here in this tarot card, is surrounded by 7 stars or 7 planets. The beast, it denotes a beast rising from the sea. Notice the dove there. Looks like the space shuttle Columbia. And notice this star is an 8-pointed star. And the book of Revelation says of the beast, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7. Look at it. It's right out of the scriptures. And they're telling you the secret in these tarot cards. The number 33 is the number for illumination. The 33rd word spoken to the 33rd word spoken by the serpent to Eve in Genesis chapter 3 was the word eyes. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. Notice this from a movie called Evolution. Notice the third eye there. That's the third eye being open. That's the day of illumination. Science Digest, you see the imagery there, the coming light years, the symbols of illumination. Notice this picture here. Drawn there, I think it's in the Sistine Chapel there in the Vatican, of God giving Adam life. That's not how it happened, by the way, but that's how they project it. Notice this movie E.T. Notice the same symbolism is there. I'm telling you, the gods, the angels, the aliens, the gods are going to come down to this world and they're going to illuminate mankind, but not God's way. Charter Communications, owned by Paul Allen. Paul Allen was one of the founders of Microsoft, one of the wealthiest men in the world. He owns Charter Communications, a technology company. Notice the imagery here from their website. Paul Allen owns another company called Capstone Energy. Capstone Energy. And Capstone Energy, they make generators. And one of their models is Model 330. Get it? from their website. Charter Communications, a whole new world of digital services. You see it all over the place. Look at this imagery from a movie, 2001, A Space Odyssey. It's about the rebirth of mankind. That's what this movie's about. It's about evolution, the rebirth of mankind. 2001. This movie came out in 1968, and it depicted things that would happen in 2001. 33 years later. And they all refer to a day of illumination. A day when they say mankind is going to, the Great Awakening, Rick Warren says. The day when mankind is going to awaken to his full potential. But God calls it another day. He calls it the day of strong delusion. The day when mankind will believe a lie. And I believe that that day is rapidly coming. Notice here, I showed you the symbol of Apollo 11, the eagle with a branch landing on the moon. And we said that when a bird carries a branch, they're building a nest. Notice what God's already seen this conspiracy. He already knows what it is. And God declared in Obadiah, He declared through the mouth of the prophet thousands of years ago that the people who are trying to do this will not succeed. Notice what He says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. And I think that is so interesting that what took place here is found right in the Scriptures. You know what God's trying to do? God's trying to tell us, I think we're living in the last days. Now, people are asking me, what do you think is going to happen next, Brother Mike? I think that we're being brought on levels of initiation. I think that Oklahoma City was worse than Waco. I think by far that September 11th was worse than Oklahoma City. And I think with all my heart, I think that we're being brought on levels of initiation to worse events happening. And I think the next thing that happens in this country is going to be far worse. September 11th. It seems as if our government is trying to prepare us for it. It seems as if they're letting out just enough information to let us know that these events are going to change the entire world. And I will say this. It doesn't take a genius. It doesn't take a prophet. It doesn't take a person of much expertise at all to imagine that if one or more nuclear bombs was set off in this country, I promise you, our lifestyle would change just like that. You see, September 11th brought about a small amount of change in our country with the Patriot Act and all this stuff, all the government listening in on everything that we do. And we allow them to do it now because we want safety. But it didn't really affect us that much. But I think that the next event, and if nuclear bombs go off, or dirty bombs, or biological bombs, if they go off in this country, in one or more cities, I promise you, our world and our way of life will change overnight. And I want to suggest to you, if you're watching this video, I want to say to you that what I'm telling you, the truth according to the Scriptures, I believe that we're being taken right to the path that leads to the mark of the beast and the end of times. And I'm saying to you that if you're not right with God, and here again, I don't want you to guess that things are okay between you and God. I don't want you to imagine they are. I don't want you to hope that if you die at the right time doing enough good deeds in life that you'll make it to heaven. That's not how you make it to heaven. What I'm going to say to you is you need to get right with God now. Because if you're not, those days will come as a thief in the night. You see, when September 11th happened, although I did not wake up that morning knowing that that was going to happen, when it happened, I wasn't shaken terribly. Although I was hurt at what I was seeing, I wasn't shaken terribly because I knew that the Bible had talked about these things taking place in our country. What I'm saying to you is, get your heart right with God. Know this Bible. Repent of your sins. Turn to Jesus Christ with all your heart. Come to a Bible. I can't promote you just going to any church and getting involved. I'm saying to you, get involved in a King James Bible believing church. If you're in this area, I would like for you to come here. You'll hear the truth. I promise you. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm not trying to exalt us, anything above anything. I'm just saying to you that you come here, you'll hear the truth. But there is a warning that needs to go out. A worse event is going to take place. Are you ready?